I still remember the look on my sister's face when she unwrapped that giant, glossy red box with the gold ribbon on Christmas morning. But honestly, I remember my mom's face even more. The way her eyes sparkled, the way her smile stretched like she had personally delivered the meaning of life. And then I remember my own gift, sitting right next to me. A $5 mug. Not even wrapped nicely. Not even with a note. Just a mug with a faded, "You're doing great," printed crookedly on the side, like the universe wanted to remind me of the world's smallest lie. And here's the messed up part. When my sister screamed as the keys fell into her lap, and my parents told her the Lexus parked outside was for her, everyone looked at me. Not with guilt or awkwardness, but with this weird expectation, like I should clap, smile, cheer, and ignore the fact that the value of our gifts differed by $116,995. So I want to ask you up front, would you have reacted the way I did later? Would you have stayed quiet and swallowed the humiliation? Or would you have snapped the way I eventually did? Because to this day I still wonder if I went too far, or if I finally went just far enough. The story didn't start on Christmas morning. It actually started years ago, long before my sister became the shiny, golden child she now carries like a personality trait. Growing up, we weren't treated the same. You know that unspoken thing families do where one kid is somehow just the favorite. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's loud and obvious. In my house, it was a full-volume broadcast. My sister, 2 years younger than me, was always the star. She wasn't smarter, she wasn't kinder, she wasn't more responsible. She just had this soft, sweet, flawless personality act that my parents ate up like honey. I was the difficult one, not because I was actually difficult, but because I wasn't passive. I asked questions, challenged unfairness, expressed my own thoughts, wanted to make choices for my own life. Apparently, that alone was enough to make me the black sheep. My parents always insisted they loved us equally, but every memory said otherwise. When we were kids, she got new backpacks every school year. I got hand-me-downs. She got a birthday party at a trampoline park. I got a family dinner at home. She got soccer lessons, dance lessons, piano lessons, skating lessons. Basically a tour of every extracurricular the world had to offer. I got told, let's not pressure her too much. She's more introverted, or we don't have the budget for that, which was hilarious, because every activity my sister did required hundreds of dollars. Then as teenagers it got worse. She got a phone 2 years earlier than me, and somehow the newest model every time. When I finally got one, it was a used one my uncle didn't want anymore. She got a laptop for school. I got told, the family computer works just fine. She got a generous allowance, I got chores. The point is, all this favoritism was slow building, consistent, and quietly painful. I didn't explode or rebel. I didn't scream or throw tantrums. I just learned to live with it the way some people learn to live with chronic back pain. You get used to it, even if it never stops hurting. But Christmas was always supposed to be the one day where the playing field felt more even. Or at least less obvious. Except this year was different. This year was nuclear-level favoritism. For some context, my sister has been my mom's mini-me ever since she turned 15. Same hairstyle, same clothes, same opinions, same interests. She practically molded herself into a mirror image of my mother, and my mother loved it. Every compliment she gave my sister felt like she was praising herself. Meanwhile, I grew into my own person, different style, different hobbies, different direction in life. Mom didn't like different. Dad followed whatever Mom decided. So by the time Christmas rolled around this year, my expectations were low, but not $5 mug low. That morning, my sister strutted into the living room wearing a silk robe like she was the star of a TV show. I was already awake, sitting by the tree, sipping some cocoa I had made for everyone. Mom was fussing over the camera setup, making sure she could record. The big surprise. Dad kept whispering to her like they were conspiring. I assumed they had gotten her something nice. Maybe a designer bag or a fancy bracelet. I didn't expect a car. Honestly, who expects their parents to drop over $100,000 on one child while giving the other one a mug? We all sat down, Mom pressing record like she was filming history. She handed my sister the giant red box, and even before she opened it, I could tell that box was expensive. You can just feel it. She tugged the ribbon off, lifted the lid, and her whole body froze. Then she screamed. Not a normal scream, a scream that shook the windows. Inside the box was a sleek black velvet case, and inside that case a Lexus key fob. She leapt up and down, hugging my mom, hugging my dad, hugging the air, while my mom laughed like she was watching her daughter win an Olympic medal. They all ran outside together, my dad shouting, "Merry Christmas," like we just entered a game show. A brand new Lexus sat in the driveway with a monstrous red bow on top. I didn't follow them immediately. I just sat there, the quiet one, staring at the mug sitting hopelessly in my lap, its crooked print almost mocking me. And while the winter light streamed through the window, and the distant echo of their celebration rang from outside, I felt something in my chest, something tight, heavy, angry, lonely, all tangled together. When they finally came back inside, my mom handed me my gift. She didn't even look at me while she did it. She was still fawning over my sister. I unwrapped it slowly, maybe hoping for something meaningful, something that would show I wasn't invisible. But no. Just the mug, $5. Probably bought last minute, no note, no thought. Just an obligation checked off the list. My mom saw the look on my face, and instead of apologizing or explaining, she said, "Don't make that expression. Be grateful. It's the thought that counts." The thought? What thought? I wish I could tell you I stayed calm, but I didn't. I said, "Mom, you bought her a car." She rolled her eyes like I was the problem. My sister, still high on the car fumes of excitement, giggled and said, "Well, I did need a car. You don't even go out much." Like that justified everything. Dad chimed in, "It's not a competition." But it literally was. They had made it a competition every day of our lives. I didn't explode right then. I wanted to. But something in me said, not today. Not yet. I swallowed it all down and gave the most brittle, fragile smile known to mankind, the kind that cracks the soul. "Thanks," I said quietly, gripping the mug so tightly it squeaked in my hand, and that was the moment, the exact moment, something broke inside me. But the real story began the next morning, when everything snapped. After Christmas dinner that night, we went to bed. I barely slept. I kept replaying the moment in my head, my parents rejoicing, recording, hugging, celebrating her gift like it was the second coming. Meanwhile, they gave me something that looked like it came from a clearance bin next to mismatched socks. I lay awake in the dim room, listening to every creak of the house, my mind spiraling down into a dark place filled with years of forgotten birthdays, ignored achievements, quiet disappointments, and swallowed pain. My sister, who slept in the room across from mine, kept walking to the window to stare at her new car in the driveway. Every time she sighed with happiness, it echoed down the hall. The next morning everything felt heavier. The house smelled like reheated leftovers. My parents were drinking coffee in the kitchen. My sister sat at the table scrolling through her phone, telling her friends about her amazing, thoughtful, perfect parents. Meanwhile, the mug sat in the sink like a punchline. My dad asked me to take the trash out. No greeting. No, how was your night? Because of course. As I was tying the trash bag, I heard my mom whisper, "I hope she doesn't start some drama about the gifts." My dad replied, "Just ignore it. She'll get over it." And that right there, that sentence, was the flick of the match to the gasoline inside my chest. I walked outside, took the trash to the bin, and as I turned around, I saw my sister standing next to her Lexus, admiring it like it was artwork. She looked at me and smirked. "Don't be jealous," she said, a voice dripping with condescension. "It's not my fault I'm the favorite." She said it jokingly, but the truth behind it hit like a slap. I walked back inside silently, but inside I was boiling. "I need you to understand something. This wasn't just about the Lexus. This wasn't even about the gift itself. This was about 22 years of feeling like my existence weighed less than hers. This was about every time I studied late into the night for an exam and got no recognition, while she brought home a C and got encouragement. This was about every birthday I blew out candles, wishing for a scrap of attention. This was about every time I felt like a guest in my own family. And while my emotions spiraled, I tried to rationalize. Maybe they thought I didn't need anything expensive. Maybe they were planning something for my birthday. Maybe I was overreacting. But then, as if the universe wanted to destroy every last excuse I was trying to make for them, I overheard my mom say something that confirmed everything. She didn't know I was behind her. She didn't know I heard her whisper to my dad, "Honestly, I think giving her something expensive would be a waste. She's too plain. She doesn't know how to take care of nice things. Plain. A waste." That's what my own mother thought of me. Right then, a cold, calm wave washed over me. Not sadness, not anger, something deeper, sharper, a quiet resolve. But before I go on with what happened next, before I tell you how everything spiraled, and why my mom snapped the next morning in a way I never saw coming, I want to ask you something. The same thing that's been tearing at me ever since that day. So that's the situation I was in. Imagine standing there, holding a $5 mug while your sister gets a luxury car worth more than your entire college tuition. Imagine hearing your parents openly admitting they don't think you're worth investing in. Imagine knowing this wasn't a one-time mistake but the final confirmation of every feeling you've buried your whole life. Before I tell you what I did, because trust me, what happened next changed everything forever, I want you to pause and tell me, what would you have done in my shoes? Would you have confronted them, stayed silent, walked away, or done something else entirely? After that moment, after hearing my mother say those words, everything became crystal clear. Crystal, cold, and sharp. I went to my room, sat on my bed, and stared at the wall for a long time. I don't know how many minutes passed, maybe 20, maybe 60, maybe 2 hours. All I know is that the longer I sat there, the more the quiet inside me turned into something focused, something determined. I started thinking about my life, about the choices ahead of me, about the fact that no matter how much I tried to earn their love, it would never be enough. They had chosen their favorite. Permanently. And I had a choice to make: accept the role they gave me, or rewrite the whole damn story. I didn't sleep much that night either. I woke up around 5 in the morning, walked downstairs, and found my mom already awake, standing in the kitchen with her coffee. She looked surprised to see me. I opened the fridge quietly, trying to avoid conversation, but she said, "Are you still upset?" In that tone people use when they think your emotions are inconvenient. I didn't reply. She sighed. "You need to be more responsible. If you want nicer things, you need to show more." Closed the fridge. Appreciation. For what? She blinked. For what we give you? Mug, I said. She shrugged. It's symbolic. It's insulting. I corrected. Her face hardened instantly. Don't be dramatic, that word. Dramatic. The go-to dismissal parents use when they don't want to take accountability. She turned away from me, muttering something under her breath about sensitive and ungrateful. And that's when something inside me snapped again. The same quiet click of a lock turning in the wrong direction. But I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I simply said, "Okay, if that's how you see me, then I guess we understand each other perfectly now." She didn't respond, but she would, soon. Later that morning, my sister made a big production of taking her new baby out for a drive. She wanted everyone to come admire the car again before she left. My parents stood outside with her, taking more photos, filming more videos. I stayed inside watching through the window like a ghost in my own home. When I think back to that morning, the strange part is that nothing looked unusual at first. The sky was bright, cold, and quiet, the kind of winter morning where you expect frost on the windows and silence in the air. My sister was glowing, like she thought she was living inside some influencer Christmas vlog, and my parents hovered around her like stage lights. I stayed inside because I honestly couldn't trust myself to be in that celebratory bubble without accidentally letting the truth slip out that I no longer belonged to this family dynamic, and maybe I never had. What I didn't expect was that my mom, the same woman who spent her entire life holding everything together through brute force of control, would be the one to lose it first. And when I say she snapped, I don't mean a mild outburst or a scolding or some snarky comment. No. What happened next changed everything we thought we knew about each other, and it ripped the final threads holding our family together. But before I get into the moment everything blew up, let me backtrack to the hour leading up to it, because that hour was the turning point for me. The moment where I finally accepted that something had to change. After the refrigerator conversation earlier that day, I went upstairs to my room and sat by the window, watching my breath fog the glass. I heard the commotion outside while my sister showed off her new car to her friends through video calls. I heard my parents laughing, heard the engine revving, heard my mom shouting things like, "We're so proud of you," and "You deserve the best." And all of it made that familiar ache in my chest start to twist again. I stared at the mug sitting on my desk, that stupid $5 mug with its crooked motivational phrase, and the longer I stared at it, the clearer everything became. That mug wasn't just a gift, it was a symbol. A symbol of what my parents thought I deserved. A symbol of where I stood in the invisible hierarchy of our family. And the worst part was that I had accepted it for years. I had allowed myself to believe their narrative, to internalize the idea that wanting fairness made me ungrateful, that noticing inequality made me dramatic, that asking for equal love made me the problem. I don't know if you've ever had a moment where your entire childhood suddenly makes sense in one painful flash, but that was mine. I heard footsteps in the hallway then, my father, walking door to door, checking if everyone was awake and ready to celebrate. The day after Christmas together, I heard him stop at my sister's door, knock softly, and say, "Princess. Breakfast is ready, Princess." That was what he called her, always had, always would. Then he knocked on my door, harder, colder, and said, Come downstairs when you're done wasting time. No nickname, no warmth. Just that familiar tone of mild irritation, as if my existence was something he had to tolerate. And in that moment, something inside me clicked again, not anger this time, not even hurt. Just a quiet realization that I was done playing the supporting character in my own life. I went downstairs to the kitchen. Mom and Dad were setting the table with leftover pastries and reheated sausages. My sister had already plopped herself at the table, still in her robe, still glowing. When I walked in, she looked at me with that same smug smile from the day before and said, "Don't be moody today, okay? This is supposed to be a happy holiday." Happy for who? But I didn't respond. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I sat down, buttered a piece of toast, and listened to them gush over her again. Every sentence began with, "Your sister," and ended with something praising her. Every sentence I heard made the kitchen shrink smaller and smaller, as if the walls were inching inward. Then, halfway through breakfast, Mom looked directly at me for the first time that morning and said, "You should take notes from your sister. She appreciates things. She doesn't make everything difficult." I put the toast down slowly and looked right back at her. "I'm not difficult," I said quietly. "You just don't like the version of me that isn't a reflection of you." The room fell silent for a moment, like someone had paused reality. But before either of them could respond, my sister clapped her hands dramatically and said, "Can we not ruin the vibe? I want to take the car out today." The attention shifted right back to her, and the moment dissolved like everything else in my life that mattered. After breakfast, my sister grabbed the keys and went outside. I stayed by the window, watching her trace her fingers along the hood of the car like she was touching something sacred. My parents joined her again, fussing over the vehicle like it was a newborn child. And that's when the moment happened, the moment my mom snapped, the moment none of us saw coming. My sister got into the car. She started the engine. She backed out slowly. But as she backed out, she clipped the side of the garage wall hard. Loud enough to hear from inside the house. Loud enough to make the whole family freeze. The entire right side of the Lexus scraped against the brick. It wasn't a tiny scratch. It was a long, ugly, metallic scream across the paint. The kind of damage that would cost thousands to fix. She hit the brakes instantly, jumped out, and screamed, "Oh my God, Mom! Dad! The wall moved! It wasn't my fault!" My parents ran to her like she had been injured. My mom immediately started panicking. "Sweetheart, are you okay? Are you hurt?" It's fine. The car can be repaired." My dad put his hand on her shoulder, assuring her over and over that it wasn't a big deal. But then my mom turned to me. Not because I did anything. Not because I was anywhere near the car. But because she needed someone to blame. When she looked at me, her eyes were sharp with something ugly. Something unfiltered. Something she had been holding in for years. "This is your fault," she snapped. I blinked. "What?" She pointed at me like she had been waiting her whole life to unleash this. "You put negative energy in this house with your attitude. You ruined the holiday spirit. You've been sulking and acting ungrateful. And now look what happened." I actually laughed. Not a happy laugh, but the kind of laugh that slips out when reality becomes too absurd to process. "Are you serious?" I asked. She hit a wall. "How is that my fault?" My sister, instead of taking responsibility, chimed in immediately. "You're always ruining things. You're such a downer." "Maybe if you weren't constantly acting jealous, this wouldn't have happened." My dad nodded in agreement. "Your mother is right. Your behavior has consequences." Consequences. For their daughter scraping a luxury car into the garage, I felt the world tilt for a second. Everything inside me twisted into something sharp, something cold. I had spent my whole life swallowing the unfairness, convincing myself that maybe I was overreacting. Maybe they didn't mean it that way. Maybe things would one day even out. But hearing them blame me for a mistake I had nothing to do with, that was the final straw. The final nail. The final confirmation that no matter what I did, I would always be wrong in their eyes simply because I wasn't her. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't defend myself. I just looked at them, really looked at them, and saw strangers. Then I said, "You know what? You're right. Everything's my fault. Has been since the day I was born, apparently. So let me fix the problem for you." And I turned around, walked back inside the house, and headed straight to my room. I grabbed my backpack, stuffed in the few things I cared about, my laptop, a few clothes, my wallet, a book I loved, and nothing else. I didn't take the mug. I didn't take any gifts they'd ever given me, because every single one felt tainted now. When I walked downstairs with the backpack over my shoulder, my mom realized I was leaving and rushed inside. "Where do you think you're going?" she demanded, like she still had authority over me. I told her, "Somewhere where I'm not a waste." Her face twisted. Don't be ridiculous. I stepped aside as she tried to block my way. If you walk out that door, she said sharply, don't expect us to chase after you. We're tired of your attitude. I looked her dead in the eye and said, you never chased after me in the first place. Then I walked past her. But then something unexpected happened. My mom shouted, fine, leave! You think leaving will make you happier? Go ahead! You'll come back when you realize no one else will tolerate you. My dad stood behind her, arms crossed, nodding like some backup authority figure. My sister leaned against the doorframe, smirking, and said, good luck out there. You'll need it. But their insults didn't hurt anymore. Not the way they used to. They felt empty now, like recycled lines from someone who no longer mattered. I walked out the front door, down the steps, toward the sidewalk. I didn't know exactly where I was going. I just knew I wasn't staying there. But before I could take 10 steps, something happened behind me. I heard a loud crash, a shatter, a scream. I turned around and saw my mom standing in the doorway holding something broken. It took me a second to realize what it was. The mug. She had thrown the mug, my mug, onto the floor behind me. Pieces were scattered across the entryway like shards of everything I'd ever felt. She screamed, that's what I think of your attitude. But the irony was painful. That mug was exactly what they thought of me all along, cheap, breakable, replaceable. Something inside me felt strangely calm then. A calmness like closure. I turned back around, kept walking, and didn't look back again. I ended up staying with a friend that night. When she opened her door and saw the backpack over my shoulder and the expression on my face, she didn't ask many questions. She just hugged me and said, stay as long as you need. And that was the first time in a long time I felt like someone genuinely cared. Over the next few days, my parents didn't call, didn't text, didn't ask where I was, didn't check if I was safe, nothing. It was like I had never existed. Meanwhile, my sister posted pictures of her dream car on social media with captions like, my amazing parents always know how to spoil me, completely ignoring the fact that she had destroyed half the passenger side on day one. Eventually, my aunt found out I'd left home and reached out, asking what happened. When I told her everything, including the Lexus, the mug, the blame, the insults, she was furious. Not at me, at them. She called my mom and demanded answers, and apparently the phone call turned into a full screaming match. My aunt told them they should be ashamed, that they had emotionally neglected me for years, that they had created this toxic imbalance between their children. My mother denied everything, of course. She said I was exaggerating and misinterpreting and seeking attention, classic. But here's where things get interesting. My cousin, my aunt's daughter, screenshotted my sister's posts and sent them to other family members. The family group chat exploded. Everyone was asking questions. Why did one child get a car and the other get a mug? What happened? Is this real? Why would you treat your children so differently? My parents tried to defend themselves, but the damage was out and they looked horrible. Days passed. A week. Then 2. I stayed with my friend, found temporary work, and began planning my next steps. It was the first time in my life I felt free. Scared, yes, but free. I wasn't waking up to criticism every morning. I wasn't competing for love. I wasn't being compared to someone else. I could breathe for the first time. And that breathing room allowed me to understand something crucial. Sometimes walking away isn't the dramatic choice. It's the necessary one. Eventually, after almost 3 weeks, my father texted me. Not to apologize, not to ask how I was, but to say, you can come home now if you're done acting childish. I didn't reply. The next day he texted again. Your mother is hurt. You should apologize. I deleted it. A week later, my mom sent a message of, we want to talk. I ignored that too. Because for the first time in my life, I realized I didn't owe them forgiveness simply because they were my parents. Love isn't automatically owed either. If someone repeatedly shows you that you don't matter to them, you're allowed to walk away. And I had. Now, half a year later, I'm living in my own apartment with 2 roommates, working a steady job and saving money for school. My aunt visits often, so does my cousin. Even my grandmother called me once and told me, sometimes families don't know how to love right, but you deserve better than what they gave you. I cried after that call, not because I was sad, but because it was the first time an older family member acknowledged my pain without dismissing it. My parents still send occasional messages saying things like, it's time to put this behind us, or stop being dramatic. But I don't respond, because I know that going back means stepping into the same role, the afterthought, the background character, the unimportant one. And I refuse to be that again. So here I am, telling you this story, not because I want pity, but because I want clarity. I want to know if walking away makes me a terrible person. I want to know if I should have fought harder, or forgiven faster, or stayed silent as usual. I want to know if you think the favoritism was as bad as I experienced it, or if the mug and Lexus Christmas was as insane as it felt. I want to know what you would have done. Would you have confronted them earlier? Would you have stayed and forced them to acknowledge the hurt? Or would you have walked away like I did? And now, as I wrap this story up, let me leave you with this. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally are the ones who teach you how to survive without them. Sometimes distance is the only way to heal. Sometimes leaving isn't failing, it's finally choosing yourself. So if you've ever felt like the forgotten one, the overlooked one, the shadow standing next to someone else's spotlight, I hope you know this: you deserve more than the bare minimum. And you don't owe anyone your silence in exchange for love.